Can I have your attention, please? At this time, I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 21st, 2017 meeting of the Revere Traffic Commission. Would everybody please rise and join us in saluting of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a request from Council Powers to take up item number 2 first, as he has a very busy schedule this evening, and we'd like to attend it. Item number 2 is to amend Title 10 of Schedule 9, Resident Park or Stick in the areas as follows. Location is Beachland Ave, westerly the entire length. And Unity Avenue in Beachmont will also be part of this amendment. So, Council McKenna, Council Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. As you well know, the area on Beachland Avenue is very close to the T-station. And as a result, you get commuters parking there, and it's a very small street. And my feeling, along with the residents, is that priority should be for the residents down there, and certainly not for people coming into the city that don't even live here, parking all over and taking up parking spaces. So I would ask the Commission if they would support that and support my position and the residents' position, and make that resident parking down there. And that's basically what I see here. And also Bellevue is on here. And that's another area. It's a very small street, and I feel that also should be resident parking down there.
We can take each street one at a time, but we can take item number 1, item number 2 as one motion this evening for purposes of this meeting. So at this time, are there any other proponents in the audience from either Bellevue or Beachland Avenue who would like to speak on this? Seeing, hearing none, I will open it up to proponents for people from Unity Avenue. Council McKenna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I put this in about 8 months ago. It hasn't been done. What's happening is I'm trying to get all of Beachmont residential parking. So people are scrambling to get any kind of parking they can, and Unity Ave is inundated with cars. What I'd like to do just for the businesses is I'd like to put on one side permit parking, because there are residents on that street, but on the other side maybe put 2-hour parking. So it would limit those people that are parking and going into the train station. Thank you.
Any other proponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing, open it up to opponents. Opponents, seeing, hearing none, I'll open it up to members of the Commission. Members?
Just to clarify, I'm assuming that Beachland Avenue is both sides of North Shore Road, entire length. Correct, Council?
Yeah. Okay. Do we need to amend Unity Avenue, because it's been kind of amended? You're going to have business parking on one side by permit and resident stick and parking on the other. So I think that needs to be added into the...
Mr. Chairman, that was my concern, that we leave some parking for the businesses there, so I'll make that amendment.
Okay, do I have a second? All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it.
Motion to approve
Motion
with the
to
amendments.
approve as items 1 and 2 as amended and presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Item number 3 is to amend title... Yes, sure.
We have a request on the request, item number 5. There's a couple of area residents here.
Yeah.
Because of it's reading out in about 20 minutes, can we just get that request?
Sure.
The request is that the gentleman from
I
the area...
understand, but we have a public hearing going on at this point. We have to finish the public hearing before we can take requests.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item number 3 is to amend Title 10, Schedule 16, service zoning by adding location, and the location is Waverly Avenue Easterly, and that's from North Shore Road, 50 feet in length, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. All the members have received an email from Council Novoselsky stating that he has no objections to what's going on there, but just wants to make for the record that the rest of the easterly side of Waverly Ave will not continue as a parking area. So there'll be no parking other than the loading zone that's going to be created on Waverly Avenue.
So, Mr. Chairman, on the direction, it should say easterly side
Easterly side,
instead of
correct?
easterly.
Yes.
Clarify that.
Yep. Any proponents? Seeing, hearing none. Any opponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close that side of the meeting. Do I have a motion from the members?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All those in the second? Aye. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. We're all set then. Okay, item number 4 will be to amend Title 10, no parking loading zone, sign to be approved for the following locations: Foster Street, northeasterly for Burnett and Monahan. All those in, any opponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Proponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Members of the commission? Chris?
I recently went up to the Moynihan and spoke with the owners up there. They're trying to get a loading zone over by their gate. They have the whole side of the street, because they want to be at. And they want to be able to park their truck by their gate to load, unload nighttime, which the county can't do. They want to see if around the overnight hours also.
So that's on the side
So
of
that
the
needs to be
building?
amended as well. Okay. So it'd be a loading zone there, 24/7 for Burnett Monahan only.
Yes, it'll be in the area of their fence to the yard.
Mr. Chairman,
Chief?
I believe this doesn't really affect anyone because it's their own driveway and their own gate.
Yeah, I agree.
So no one would be allowed to park in front of it anyway, so they just want to put their own vehicle there. The problem is they're getting tagged because of the commercial plates.
Yeah, I agree. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second? Aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Item number 5 is to amend Schedule 9 of Title 10 resident parking sticker areas by adding the following locations: Oak Island Road, both sides from Oak Island Road to Bridge Street. Do I have any proponents? Counselor?
Mr. Chairman, we're still in the process of the resurfacing of the area down there that's going to be designated for resident parking for those 2 particular streets. And my plan is within the next couple of weeks to speak to those people down there and find out, I know we're supposed to, I think, have 8 spaces, find out just who we would use that space for, only for those addresses, because those are the people that are being displaced with regard to parking down there. And we're trying to make that up with this parking lot, and I think Nick Rystrom is aware of that also. So I don't know if you'd want to leave it on the table till the next meeting?
Let me close. Any other proponents out there? Seeing, hearing none. Opponents? Seeing, hearing none. Open up. Engineer Rystrom.
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, this should be from Woodland Road to Bridge Street, is that right?
That's correct.
And just to confirm, the
Excuse me,
council's...
to and including Bridge Street. There's 2 houses on Bridge Street.
Right. So Woodland Road, I'm sorry, Oak Island Road and Bridge Street from Woodland Road to Glendale Street.
That's correct.
Just to confirm, we are in the process of providing 8 parking spots off-street down in that area. It's not quite finished yet, but it would stand to reason that those spots would be designated for the people in this area on Oak Island and Bridge Street.
That's correct, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. How did this come before us?
What's the?
the present
Well,
motion.
obviously, Nick can explain it better than I can, but the reason for being is that the railroad crossing made us do some work down on the street, Jimmy, and we can't, they had to put up barriers so people couldn't come out and take left-hand turns. So we're obviously making the people go back into Oak Island to turn around. And by doing so, we took a lot of parking area, places that people normally would park at, they're no longer parked there. So I know Mr. Rystrom can answer those questions better than I. He's been working on this proposal from the beginning.
I have one more, but my understanding is usually when something comes before us, we always consult with the ward council first.
He is the ward councilor.
Right, but he doesn't appear to be in favor of this at this time.
Oh, he is.
Well, what I'm saying is that I'd like to lay it on the table until we get definitive house numbers
Right.
that will be using this space, because, you know,
Okay.
obviously, if there's 8 spaces and you've got 5 houses in that area, you can't allow one person to park 3 or
Use all
4
the
cars
spaces,
in
right,
there and use up all the spaces.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay. So do I have a motion to lay table?
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it.
Thank you,
Motion
Mr.
has been
Chairman.
tabled to the next regular meeting. Item number 6 is request, huh?
Can we get clarification as to the addresses for the meeting? Can we get clarification as to the addresses affected by this for the next meeting, so I can list it out for the
Sure.
addresses?
I can tell you that right now, it's only addresses that are on Bridge Street, or all addresses on Bridge Street, and then all addresses on Oak Island Road, east of Woodland Road. I can get you a list of what those addresses are following the meeting.
I'll say, thank you.
Great. Item number 6, request amend schedule 11 of Title K handicap parking person parking areas by adding the following location, 321 Mountain Ave. Proponents? Any proponents? Seeing you have none, opponents? Ralph, can you, yeah, well, you can do it from there if you yeah.
Ralph DeChico, Commission on Disabilities. I did the site visits and went through the applications, and they do meet all the requirements. They are the homeowner. Their driveway has 2 walls that restrict opening of the doors, and they have the parking in front of the house, so I am in favor of this with the approval of the Traffic Commission.
Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it, motion is approved. Okay. Now we can move on to requests. Councilor Guanasso.
Did we do number 1, Mr. Chairman?
No, we're
No.
going to item number 5, I believe it is. Yes, this is,
Chairman?
item number 5 on the request is a request from Paul Rupp, a resident on Revere Street, who would like to address the Traffic Commission regarding reversing the one-way on Fairfield Street. Councilor Guanasso.
Mr. Chairman, I yield to the resident, Paul Rupp, and I think it'd be very interesting to hear what he has to say.
Mr. Rupp, name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. Paul Rupp, 371 Revere Street, where I reside with my wife Heidi and our 2 school-age children. Thank you for hearing me today on this issue. I know the commission's busy, so I'm going to read from my notes, and if you want to interrupt me, please feel free to do so, so this moves a little faster. Basically, the issue is that the commission's decision making Fairfield Street a one-way from Revere Street prevents us from accessing our driveway. And if we try to access it from Revere Street, that poses a significant danger to us and other drivers. Our driveway is approximately 98 inches wide. I've got pictures if you want it, and I think a couple of you got some emails. So if I'm driving east towards the beach, you can't pull into my driveway. It's impossible on the easterly side to take a right-hand turn into a 98-inch wide driveway. Can't do it. If I try to reverse direction and enter the driveway from the driving west, that's virtually impossible and extremely dangerous to us and other drivers on the road. Picture this. I have to stop on Revere Street on the westerly side at Fairfield. I have to wait and back up traffic most of the time to the bridge. I have to wait for the person on the eastbound side to acknowledge that I, in fact, am trying to make a turn. I can't, in fact, make a turn by proceeding in one direction. I have to proceed, I have to back up, I have to block traffic on both lanes of Revere Street so that the back end of my car is almost on Fairfield, then to pull forward. So it creates a danger for me and my family, and it backs up traffic, and it's going to cause accidents. So how did we do this in the past? Well, for generations, my wife and her family, we would go down Boston Street, we'd take a left on Hastings, take a left on Fairfield, drive to the end, stop, wait for 4 or 5 minutes sometimes for the traffic to clear on both sides, and then we cross Revere Street. So I appreciate the commission is required to balance the needs of residents of the city. However, the supposed needs of the residents of Fairfield Street should not outweigh the danger to me, my family, or other drivers. Again, the safety of all should outweigh the supposed needs of the residents of Fairfield Street. I believe the need for a one-way and parking on both sides of Fairfield Street is baseless. There are 8 other similar streets with similar homes on the same side of Fairfield Street, running from Pierce Street to Temple Street, that are not one-way streets, and parking is on one side. Also, Fairfield Street has a better off-street parking situation than those other 8 streets. Now, I counted this morning 2, but I'm told I'm wrong. There are 5 homes on Fairfield Street that don't have driveways. But there are 24 driveways, guys. 24 driveways on Fairfield Street. Most of those driveways have parking between 2 and 4 cars, and I'm not counting garages. So, and also the biggest proponent of the decision has a driveway, parks the cars there now. Also, for the first 2 weeks of the commission's decision to allow parking on both sides with a one-way, no one parked on one side, and there was still plenty of parking on the other. Then, after that was clarified and they started parking on both sides, I only see every day I look, twice a day, when I go to work, when I come back from work, take the kids to practice, come back, there are 2 or 3 cars on one side, and most people park on the other side. So, they don't need parking on both sides. And parking on the other side, where most people park, there are still spots open for cars. So, I understand there might be a legitimate need to secure parking near a resident's home. If they need to, apply for a handicap parking spot. Let them do that. So, for the reasons presented, I respectfully request the commission to reverse its decision and return Fairfield Street open to traffic in both directions. If a public hearing is required in connection with our request, then please schedule that and kindly give me notice. In the alternative, if the commission believes that Fairfield Street should remain a one-way, then we request that the one-way direction be reversed, meaning a do not enter from Revere Street and a one-way from Hastings. That way, that'll enable me to access our driveway without compromising our safety and the safety of others. We don't prefer this result. However, this result may be the most neighborly result without impairing safety. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
What's your address again, sir?
371 Revere Street. Yeah, it's a straight shot.
You would have to go west in order to make the turn, Nick, because the turning radius going easterly is just, the opening's just too small in order for him to make that entrance into his driveway. Even from the westerly side, you probably have to pull in, back up, pull in.
Exactly.
You got traffic, and it's creating a traffic backup situation. And obviously, the dangers were stated aptly by the proponent.
I can't buy a car that I want to buy because it's too wide for my driveway. I even have to pull in one mirror in order to get one of them down the driveway. And my neighbor won't move his fence. I tried that.
Well, we can have that conversation. It's just for the edification of the audience. Obviously, if we were going to change or do anything, we have to order this to a public hearing so opponents can come up and, speak their piece about this. The one part I don't think that's being brought up here is that, myself and the city engineer have been down there, and with parking on both sides, it's really, really tight. And I know this was like a trial boom period, and I honestly can say, I don't know how we're gonna be able to accommodate that during the winter months with snow plowing regularly. Even if we, plow all the snow on that street to that one side of the street, it's still gonna be a difficult proposition. And the thing about reversing it, which I think is probably the most neighborly thing to do, but us taking all that snow from Fairfield Street and throwing it out onto Revere Street, which is a main thoroughfare right near the school, and it's not the right thing for us to, I mean, it could be a compromise to do it, it'd be a lot more work, we may have to, because we do remove some snow in that area at times, but if we were gonna change this, I think we would absolutely need to send it to a public hearing. But once again, I'm not convinced that that can remain parking on both sides. I was down there doing an inspection on one of the new driveways that were going in, cars parked on both sides. I have a pickup truck. I had to pull my mirror in to get through. So, and that's without any, snow plowing or anything like that. So this issue is not over. And my response to that was when I went down there, is that, Chris, I think that at some point you're going to need to, with parking on both sides at night, to maybe do a test drive down there with fire apparatus to see if you can get by there, because I could barely get through with my pickup truck. I had to pull the mirrors in. So, Council Guanasso.
One quick comment about the snow, because I understand that, the way the direction the plow needs to go. But there's no parking from here to corner, so there should be enough.
It's just the volume of snow you're pushing out onto the roadway. It just doesn't stop there. It continues with us. So it does make it a little difficult for us.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Not something that we can't deal with, but.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I don't understand why if you're going on Revere Street westerly, you can't take a left into your driveway.
Well, you can, but it's still so sharp.
I back up Revere Street. I can't make a straight. I can't make a.
No,
straight,
not back up. Drive up Revere Street and turn left into your driveway.
Can't. No, there is no. There's no. The angle is not right.
You got to go look at it, Jimmy. It's really tight.
98.
From the other, I'm talking about the opposite side of the street.
I understand. You can't do it without making a 3-point turn. It's impossible.
Okay.
You got to take into consideration there's usually cars parked there as well. It's not just, if he had maybe no cars there.
Even if there are cars
Right.
there, it's the angle is wrong. You just can't do it. I'm happy to let anybody try it. I wish I could do it.
If it's an issue with the angle, is that more of a problem with the driveway itself?
No, it's
There's two buildings in the way. Yeah.
There's no. I've got 98 inches.
Yeah.
Right, so the driveway.
That would never be, I would never approve a driveway that small in today's current standard. That thing's been there for 100 years. It's not like, So if he had come to me today to request a driveway opening for that location, I could not give it to him because it's too small.
And I can't park on Revere Street on my side overnight, nor do I want to.
No.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Council Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, certainly, I know the area so well, being there over 50 years. To get into Mr. Rupp and Heidi's driveway, you have to make an approach straight. There's no flexibility in making a turn. That's impossible. So we can rule that completely out. Pictures might show one thing, but if you see the thing, you just can't go any other way. And he has no ability on either side to make it larger. And then when we spoke of this conversion, that we did make this one way going from Revere Street down towards the marsh, it wasn't taken into consideration Paul and Heidi's concerns based on the fact that it wasn't a thought of mine. But now that it's brought to our attention, we have to understand that and listen to a long-term resident who has a plea. We also, at that public hearing, in determining to make this a one-way and allowing double street parking, we said it was a 90-day review. And at that point in time, we would make a determination if it's working. Well, it is working to an extent for the area people on Fairfield Street, but there are other people that are making concerns about this. And the simple solution for the interim is that why don't we try to reverse the one-way, make it from the Marsh towards Revere Street, allowing Heidi and Paul Rupp the ability to drive into their driveway. Now, during snow emergencies, I understand the traversion of snowplows, that there should be only one-sided parking. So if we have that ability, as we discussed when we had the parking meeting, our very first public hearing, we had parking, we were going to attend to the individual needs of each and every street, because every street in the community has different needs. So you can't say Pierce Street is the same as Fairfield, and Fairfield's the same as Elmwood, because it's not. They have certain needs. And it's up to the residents, according to what I heard at the public hearing, that we are going to attend to the people's needs. And so what we ask of, the simple solution at this point in time is to simply reverse the one-way, make it go the other way. I don't think anyone on Fairfield Street would be opposed to that. I have one resident that lives on Fairfield Street here with us this evening, and she's for it. So let us do that and then allow the double parking, and then when snow emergencies come, everybody has to be made aware. We can send a flyer, I can send a flyer, we can set post signs that during a snow emergency, there's only one-sided street parking, so we can get our streets plowed properly. And so on those particular nights, people have to do a little scrambling and a little neighborly thing of maybe jumping in each other's driveways. But whatever it has to be, we have to free our streets for snow removal. So that's what I offer out to you, and I would hope that you would take this request and
To reverse, we still have to,
have a public
we have to
hearing.
go to public hearing,
Absolutely.
which is 30 days.
Okay.
Chairman, I make a
And-
motion,
and
given the
then 30
hardship
days-
that we
Yeah.
send this to a public hearing to reverse it
Yeah.
from.
In 30 days from there,
Hastings to Revere.
I think, obviously, Chris, you're gonna need to see if you can get a fire apparatus down there with vehicles parked on both sides of the street out there. I went down, I was measuring out there, and if.
I know.
If
I know.
you plow any snow on that right side, even with the snow emergency.
I know.
It's gonna be very, very difficult to park there in the winter at all.
I know.
So-
But again, having the flexibility and the allow, when snow plowing is performed, we still have the ability to, if there's one-sided park, take that snow and push it down into the marsh and not put it on Revere Street. I know this is a challenging process here, and there's no simple solution. But the only thing being is that I asked the chief of police and Chris Giannino, in the interim, can we allow an exception for one individual to, while we take this time to go up the one way and not tag him? And so just to allow him to safely go into his driveway, and hopefully we can get this resolved within a month or so. Is that satisfactory?
I think you'd be putting him at risk for insurance if you ever had an accident and or even somebody hit him. If he's coming out of a one-way, it's an automatic at fault. So that's the dilemma there.
What's Paul? I mean, I know what
We're
we're
trying to
saying,
make things
and we
easy
can't
for
say it
everybody,
in a
but-
public hearing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you have to
Well, the
allow
problem
them.
is, even if we said, okay, fine, no problem, if
Yeah, I understand.
he gets in an accident, regardless whether he's right or wrong, he's wrong because he
I
came
know.
out of a one-way street.
I know. I understand the liability of it, but
I think at this
we
point,
need to help this gentleman out.
I
with his
think at this
family.
point, and I'm going to be blunt, and I'm going to say how I feel and I think about it. I think obviously we can, come back here in 30 days. It's going to be my decision based on what I've seen, what I've measured, what I went down there, and I just don't think it's feasible to have parking on both. Some parts of the street are wider, other parts are narrower. So the simple fact of the matter is, you got to take the shortest distance. In the interest of public safety, especially for our police and fire department to be able to get up and down there. I don't see that that can be maintained the way it's presently structured.
Well, we asked that this
Yeah.
commission review it.
To look at,
and-
correct.
And all we were looking for was a little relief, and
Right.
if, within your wisdom, if it's a public safety factor, then you have to do what you think is necessary. and-
And I'm only going to speak for myself, I can't speak for the other members, but I've been down there based on some, because the, putting this in, when people are putting driveways in down there, so I've been spending some time down there measuring, putting my truck there, trying to get by other trucks, and like I said, at one portion of the street, I had to put my mirror to get by, and when that happened, you know, the light went off in my head that obviously a fire apparatus would have a difficulty, or a dump truck, or somebody trying to get down a car, fine. And, you know, this was on a bright sunny day in August, and, you know, it's, you know, when you get any buildup on a snowbank, there's just no way you're gonna be able to park.
Thank you
on
for your
both sides.
consideration, Mr.
But we
Chairman and
will-
members. We appreciate
but
anything you can
we'll
do for
order
help
this for a
us.
public hearing, and
Help us out.
at this time.
Thank you.
Eventually, it's going to go back to a two-way.
I think
'Cause
so.
This was against all
Yeah,
our previous decisions that we made to make it some,
We-
one-way with parking on both sides.
We agreed to concede to the residents on the street to give it, to test it. And as far as how I look at it, and this is under the best of conditions, we're talking about summertime, I just don't see how it's gonna be able to stay that way.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you, members.
Okay. Item number 1 on the request.
Excuse me,
Yes,
so we're gonna put this for next meeting instead of going to
Yeah.
the trial period, we'll do the trial period ending in
yeah, why don't we do
30
that?
more days.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what my motion was going to be. We have a new trial period
Yeah.
for this.
Okay.
Reversing the one-way.
Yeah. Why don't-
30-day trial period.
All those in favor?
That'll bring you into winter.
Aye, the ayes have it, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I think what you're gonna have to do is just take the signs down and, yeah. You make it a two-way, and the trial period's up, you just wanna take them down? We do, yeah, so we can do that next
Why don't we
month.
just end the trial period in the 30 days from now and put it back up for review again?
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah, yes, chief.
I don't think I'm going to be in favor of taking people's parking away.
Well, they never had the parking to begin with.
So this is new. In the past, it was
Yes.
one side.
They were
And how
parking
many
up-
people are utilizing the parking as it stands
There are
now?
a few that are out there, but there are some people that put driveways in and now are trying to take spots up on the street as well, so.
Is
you
it
know,
possible on the wider part of the street to allow parking, and then on the rest of it, no parking on one side?
Yeah, it's not done anywhere else, Jimmy. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's, you know, obviously, I'm gonna defer it to the chief because he needs to get his equipment down there. And I'm telling you, so down there at the bottom, you're not gonna get through if there's cars parked on both sides. It's not gonna happen. Like I said, I'd pull my mirror in to get by myself with my pickup, so. Yeah, review in 30 days, report back on the 30-day trial period in 30 days. Okay. It's been ordered to a public hearing. Item number 1 on the request, this is from Council Zambudo, and he's requesting to amend Title 10, Schedule 8, parking restrictions generally as follow. Location, this is 230 Bellingham Ave, no parking this side to 240 Bellingham Ave. Council Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Frankly, there was a sign there for many, many, many years. Somebody called the mayor's office and got one of the assistants and informed them that somehow it was not on the ordinances. And they looked and it wasn't, and they ordered the sign taken down. Now, that doesn't help the public safety issue there that it was up for all those years. I just assumed the sign was put up through the Traffic Commission before I was even a city councilor, or sometime many years ago. It's an area that you can barely get a car through when there's cars parked on both sides. You'll never get a piece of apparatus. If you're coming down that hill, it's impossible to even make the turn. So, I mean, whether it was on the books or not, it needs to be back there. So whatever avenue I have to take to get it back there, that's why I'm here tonight. I think there might be a resident here also that will confirm that you can't even get cars through there one-on-one. So that's my reason for being here, and whatever the process is, it's truly a public safety issue.
Obviously, we have to send this to a public hearing, but, but if there's somebody in the audience who'd like to speak tonight, that'd be fine.
Mark Baranco, 230 Bellingham. I've lived there for 4 years. Everybody seems to have a driveway there. But apparently, since that sign's been down, there's a lot of cars on the even side, okay? And that stretch of Bellingham is two-way there, but it's one-way the rest down towards the what is it, the station down there? So anyways, you have the convergence coming down that hill, and you can't get, if you got people on either side, now there's people parking on either side. I don't think they live around there, it doesn't matter, but you can't get 2 cars through that little two-way section at the same time. You gotta back up. Well, that one guy, it's like a bullfight.
Well, that's obviously why the sign was put there.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
But thanks for your
Okay,
consideration.
thank you. At this time, I don't see, Joan McKenna, you have any? Okay. All right, so we'll order this to a public hearing, so everybody will have their say. I'll make a motion, we order this to a public hearing. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. Item number 2 is Council McKenna request to amend Schedule 9 of Title 10 resident parkers sticker areas by adding the following locations: Sale Street southerly, the entire length; Leverett Avenue, both sides, the entire length; Endicott Avenue southerly, the entire length.
So what's
Councilor
happening?
McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what's happening is, because we've made so many streets permit parking, people are starting to move further away. And so the residents there are now having problems parking in front of their houses because they don't want to pay the $5. I don't understand it. So they're parking all around Beachmont, and they're walking to the T station, and they're parking there for 8 hours. So these 3 streets are inundated with cars now because of the fact that we have pushed everything upward. So Seal Street is off of Brad Street Ave, and they're getting, it's a very small street, but they're getting people from outside of this area parking there. Leverett Ave is having, they have both sides, they're having problems down there, and also they're having issues with people that are coming in. It's an ongoing problem, and Captain Guido knows about it. It's an ongoing problem. Chief Guido. It's an ongoing problem with people coming in at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, parking there and partying, because there's 2 parks on both sides. And so the residents are having a hard time. So if you put, I think that will alleviate 2 problems. And then with Endicott Ave, they're just going down Endicott Ave and parking there. So it's very needed, and I'd like to say entire length, but entire day too, because some of the permit parking in Beachmont has 9 to 12. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I make a motion, we send this to a public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it. Item number 3 is request to end Schedule
Mr. Chairman,
11.
before you go on, just, again, grammatically, when we're talking about directions, we're talking about actually sides of the street here, not the direction.
Right.
So on Endicott Avenue, we're talking about the southerly side, because there's no parking on the northerly.
There's no parking on the southerly side, no parking on the northerly side, that's right.
Right, so I think we just have to put the word side beside southerly, and again, on Seal Street,
I think we have
southerly
to
side.
kind of look at this stuff, because my parents live on Leverett Avenue, and there's no problem with parking down there at all.
Yeah.
It's really not, so. The problem, we keep putting all this resident sticker parking, and what you're gonna end up with at some point is you're not gonna be able to have a family party, you're not gonna be able to have anybody coming to your house. I think we need to kind of take a look at that unless they can make some type of accommodations for things of that nature. I've talked to people in Boston and Cambridge that have it, and these are some of the difficulties that they they need to address, because every time you have a party, you get, people that come around and they take it, and it's a revenue producing type of thing. And so I think those are some of the things we gotta look at. And obviously, if it's needed and people are being impacted by it, fine, but I don't think we should be putting it in areas where it's, it's not the problem that they think it
Another
is.
thing is that we have, at Leverett Avenue, we have the Louis Pasteur Playground.
Right,
So people come from all over the city.
right.
Not just from Beachmont.
Well, we just spent all that money redoing the parks, and, you want people to enjoy them. And like you say, Frank, it's for everybody in the city, not just for the people that live on the street. So these are the things we're gonna really have to take a look at and see, just, I can maybe understand the first part of Leverett Avenue, but I think a lot of that may be people that are just at the parks, and maybe not people that are on the trains.
So the concern, down near the beach, is that people park there as commuters?
Well, that's with, if you're utilizing the beach, there's no parking to go to the beach, but you have access to the beach there. Where are you gonna park? You're gonna park on Leverett Ave, maybe Endicott Ave, and those are the residents from the city that know the neighborhood, that live in the neighborhood, may not live exactly on that street, but they do utilize, that side of Broad Sound Avenue, Leverett Avenue, to park cars. And my dad's lived there all his life, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. He's never mentioned to me that it's been a problem, but there are people that obviously park in front of his house and, cross the street to go in and access the beach. So this is a touchy situation. And the flip side of that is that if you keep restricting the ability of people to have visitors, what happens to, you have a family party, somebody has a christening, holidays, things of that nature. So that's,
This is a
something.
situation similar to Shirley Avenue. We have a congested area.
Right.
So these could be other residents on other streets that are parking there because parking is so limited in the area.
Yeah,
So
and
you
like I
find
said, there's not,
The easiest spot.
and this
first
is,
spot
I
you
can only
get.
speak for my family situation there, Frank. It doesn't seem to be a problem. I mean, anytime I would say 9 out of 10 times if I go to visit my dad, other than, if he's not having a party or something, I always have the ability to park, and it doesn't seem to be a situation. But the lower end, closer to the Louis Pasteur Park, there are cars parked there quite a bit, but there are people in the park. So it's sometimes people will use something in our ordinances because they don't want people parking around their house and in the house. We see where we grant people driveway permits and they park in front of their house and there's no cars parked in front of the driveway. So these are the things we need to take a hard look at and just not say everything is related to commuter traffic, because it's not. So, order to a public hearing. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. Okay. So we have item number 3, and this is a request to amend Schedule 11 of Title 10, handicap parking, persons parking areas, by adding the following locations: 62 Kingman Ave, 73 Highland Ave, and 74 Hillside Avenue. Do I have a report from Director of Handicap Affairs, Ralph?
I have a report that I believe I emailed
Yeah.
to everyone for 73 Highland Ave and 74 Hillside Ave, stating my opinions on them. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions on them. I sent you the pictures and whatnot, and I defer. I gave you my opinions, but of course you have the overall authority of how you would want to rule on them. But I'll leave that to you. But I basically just went by the ordinances and how I feel on those.
What were the results of those two?
I would deny those, both of those.
And 62 Kingman Avenue.
62 Kingman's and one that I got, and I'll defer that one to Sergeant Janino. The only thing that I brought up to him, I was just concerned because it seemed like it was more of a hill on the street.
Okay.
62 Kingman was a request from one of the residents. I just got the paperwork today on it. I told him to put it on the agenda for a public hearing and
Okay, so,
hear it later on.
okay. So I'll make a motion based on the investigation of handicap director, is that we order only 62 Kingman Avenue to a public hearing, deny the 73 and 74 Hillside Avenue, unless we just place them all on the next public hearing and deny them. Huh? Well, yeah, I'm making a motion to deny them based on okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. So the only thing that would be going to a public hearing next month would be 62 Kingman Avenue. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more late one, but I'm not sure if anyone received it.
Okay.
And this one is of somewhat of an importance. I know you know the residents, 57 Stevens Street.
Yeah, I did see it.
The problem there is that she does have a handicap ramp in front of the house, and her driveway is not accessible. She's been parking there for years, and what happens when she gets home, if there is a vehicle there, she can't access her handicap vehicle with the ramp in order to get out, in order to get in, and I told her that I would put it on. If we needed to go to a hearing next month, we can.
Okay. I make a motion, we order this to a public hearing.
You want the emergency on it? You want the
Yeah, emergency, yeah, no,
We can go to hearing.
we can go to hearing.
As long as it gets in before the
Yeah,
bad weather.
yeah, okay. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes
What was
have
the
it.
address for that?
57 Stevens. Can we have a request to amend Schedule 11 of Title 10 handicap parking personage by removing handicap signs at the following locations? That's at 137 Kimball Avenue and 39 Pitcairn Street. Do I have
Why are we removing?
people moved?
So moved.
Okay.
Is that a public hearing or just a vote?
No, we just get rid of them. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Item number 5 has been taken care of. And item number 6 is a communication from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Standards and Labor. And this is about some crosswalk areas they have some concerns with that we'll be addressing over the next 30 days. Nick, did you have any input on this, or did you have you seen this yet, Jimmy?
Mr. Chairman, I went to a meeting at the Lincoln School, and we need to decide who should have the final say in this. I guess the Traffic Commission ultimately would have the final say, because we had too many different opinions at the Lincoln School on the day we met. So I don't know what the outcome was, but it appears they did not listen to my recommendation, nor Sergeant Janino's recommendation. So maybe Nick can add more to it, but we need to have a vote and decide how we're going to address this and answer the state back.
Well, I agree, Jimmy, because as I see it up there, there's just kids crossing wherever they feel like it. You know, they just stop, and you got, the crossing guards are running all over the place up there. It's not making their job any easier, and we just have to designate certain areas that they can cross, and that's where they're going to have to cross.
Mr. Chairman, our suggestion was put the crosswalk back in the middle. The kids walk up the sidewalk to the crosswalk and cross the street, and remove the one, the kids were cutting through the park, and coming down, and then going to another crosswalk. So I don't see the need to have 3 crossing guards there. We should just move the crosswalk.
Well, that's how it was before, Jim. They said one crossing area, but now they want 3.
Access from all directions
Right.
to that one crosswalk.
Right.
Right from Broadway right to the crosswalk.
Yeah.
There's no need to be crossing anywhere else.
Okay,
I recommend that we meet up there one day and
sure.
all of us meet up there and look at the area, and then go to Party View School, look at the area, come to a decision on it. We have till October 30th to close these 2 out.
Okay, so obviously, my input is going to be there. This is not something of convenience, it's for the public safety of the children, and we need to do what's in the best interest of the safety of the children and not what's more convenient for, certain individuals.
Just for the record, the state will be coming out again the next couple of weeks to go down to the Lincoln and the Party View School.
Okay.
They're coming out again. They called me up last week.
Now, I had one question on the Party View School, Chris. I had received a phone call from members of the staff at Reed River Public Schools about moving a crosswalk. So I don't know by having moved that crosswalk if we've corrected the situation or we've created another violation. So
What they're looking for is, right now, we have kids crossing over Roosevelt Street
yeah,
and Boston Street. The lights for the crosswalk are 25 feet away from the intersection. The simple solution over there is to put a crosswalk from the corner of Roosevelt to Boston. If you go from the handicap ramps on the sidewalk, we're in compliance on it.
Okay,
We use that crosswalk during the coming and going to school. When school's in session, the kids can go over to the lights, use the lights. They're concerned about the crossing these kids out of that crosswalk. But unfortunately, we have, other than putting 2 crossing guards within 20 feet, it's easier to put a permanent crosswalk.
during school hours.
Yes,
Yeah,
they will be close to each other. But it says the active crosswalk for coming and going to school will be the corner. When school's in session, it'll be the lights.
the lights, okay.
That's the simple solution.
Yeah, we can put one of those temporary, crossing guard to identify where the kids are to cross. Right, okay.
Didn't that already come before us when we approved that location?
That came afoot, but they put it across Boston Street, not across Revere Street.
Recommendation was to put it across Revere Street
Yes.
from Roosevelt to Boston.
Okay. Okay. So we
And
need
so
to,
if we can get a crosswalk across Revere Street,
okay.
that'll close out that part of the state's requests.
All right, why don't you contact me tomorrow? I'll meet you there. We'll kind of mark it out, and I'll have the company come in
And
and
the only
paint.
open will be the Lincoln School for us to figure out.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, also the day I was there, the Lincoln School, the school department staff seemed to concur with myself and Sergeant Janino. So I think that's the most practical solution, and we should just,
I think in that situation too, the issue, part of the issue is the implementation, because there's an active drop-off there that has to be modified. There's the curbing that has to be modified. I think that the location of the crosswalk that Sergeant Janino and that Chief Gatto are talking about is probably the place where it should be. I wasn't involved in how it got moved to begin with, but it's definitely the most direct way across the street. It's one crossing, and that's all you need instead of 3. But I think that the biggest hurdle is going to be the implementation, because there's more than just striping a crosswalk. There's some curbing work and some things like that. Right.
Within 200 feet, there's another crosswalk over there, Nick. If we use the crosswalk by Graves Road as the handicapped accessibility to cross Malden Street, that meets the requirements. The one we're putting in is more of a convenience for the parents to back to where it used to be before. So if you look at the curbs, they're already marked out with yellow paint on them from the past. So we're just putting it back to where it was, with the handicapped access being Graves Road across. There's a ramp on both sides of that crosswalk within 200 feet of it. And if everyone knows that's the crosswalk, we can probably get away with it.
So you're talking about not in the middle of that island, but at the end, where that catch basin is, and it's the yellow curbing.
With the yellow curbing, there's about 8 to 10 feet of yellow curbing across Malden Street in that area. If we use that piece of yellow curbing to go across, we could probably put it right there where it's convenient for, with a crossing now.
But not in the middle of where the drop-off is,
No,
on the end.
the end of it.
Okay.
yeah. And
If
that'll
you can
meet
do
all
it
the-
without having to adjust, have the handicap ramps and all that stuff, then the implementation's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
200 feet, is that what it is?
That,
Is that the current day standard?
If you're within 200 feet of crosswalk, you may need to use a crosswalk.
Ralph, do you concur? Okay.
Mr. Chair, that would be the short-term solution, but if we did find the money, the long-term solution, it'd be nice to alter the curbing for that crosswalk too, but it's not necessary right now.
Okay. Hold on a second. Okay.
I tend to agree with Chief Gatto. I think that location is central to that whole crossing, and that it would be convenient for everybody to be able to cross there.
And just to add one more thing, where the crosswalk ends is the entrance to the school.
School.
There's a walkway
Right.
to the front doors.
Yeah. It makes all the sense, it really does. Okay, well, that's it for request. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, can we do
Do I have
new
any
business?
late- Yeah, sure, Jimmy, go ahead. You got a late request?
No, it's not a request. I guess it's informational. My understanding with the new parking regulations is if a resident owns a pickup truck with a commercial plate, Sergeant, what's the cost of the permit?
It's about $410 for a permit.
How much? $400. I think that's a little steep, and we should look at lowering that. The goal wasn't to hurt residents. Some working person who has to have a commercial plate to work in Boston, a pickup truck. It was for big trucks. So I think we should revisit that with the new parking clerk and then come back to this commission with a recommendation.
I've been doing a lot of dealing with the trucks also out there, and there's been concern with everyone's complaining about the price of it, the people out there. They're saying I pay excise tax on the truck already. The business is saying I'm paying business taxes, commercial taxes. Why am I paying $400 for a pass for my truck? So that's something we should probably review, is the price we're charging for it. And also, we're hitting local businesses. This is supposed to be for residential parking. However, the businesses in Revere that have businesses in the city are getting affected by this now, and they can't park their own trucks in front of their businesses. And we're supposed to be residential.
Where did the fee come from?
They pulled it out of the ordinances from other towns, and they tried to come up with a ballpark figure on what they could charge for a fee. And that was the price. I mean, but $400 is a lot of money. Want me to talk to the councils on this here and see if we can rewrite some stuff on it and come back before it?
Motion to adjourn. So moved. Aye.